Good morning. This is March 25th, and we're going to go over some of the latest from the East Palestine response. Now, this is an update that the EPA has on the bottom of their webpage. We're just going to go over this a little bit. So they're talking about this evening, the EPA hosted a community open house at East Palestine High School. Staff from EPA, Ohio EPA, Columbiana County Health District, and other supporting agencies provided residents with information about soil sampling, air monitoring, and other aspects of the response. This week, the EPA published the East Palestine Trail Derailment Response newsletter, this PDF here, for communities in Ohio and Pennsylvania on EPA's website. The EPA has reviewed preliminary data for some of the soil sampling related to controlled burn that occurred during response actions to the train derailment in East Palestine. While final results will be available in the coming weeks, EPA's review of the preliminary data indicates levels of semi-volatile organic chemicals and dioxin in the samples are similar to typical background levels. Well, we're going to dig into this at a later date, but a little bit of light that I can shed on this is preliminary versus final results. These things typically, generally labs operate on a 10-day turnaround time from whenever they receive the samples. So these samples are collected, they're sent to a laboratory, and there's laboratories within an hour's drive of this location that can take these samples under chain of custody, log them in, and then send them out to the appropriate labs for analysis. And the labs that are performing these are, they're tapping on labs from across the country. And like I said, it takes generally 10 days is the standard turnaround time because of this level of event. It could take longer. I don't know. Or folks can request a rush turnaround time for a higher cost. So generally, you could get it in as little as 48 hours, but it's going to be exponentially higher. And for the level of samples that this project is going to entail, it's generally not economically feasible. It's generally a better idea once you start collecting samples and get them. There's that initial lag time, but over time you're going to get results back on an ongoing basis. So at the derailment site, they're noting increased truck traffic along designated trucking routes. Taggart Street is still closed to the public. Continued excavation and construction work at the site. Trucks continue to take soil off-site. 2 street sweepers will continue around truck traffic, and crews continue to clean trucks before leaving the site. So basically there, with the street sweepers, that sounds kind of mundane, but you don't want to be tracking contaminated material from the site to other locations. So that's why it's important to have street sweepers and traffic control. Generally, there'll be aggregate gravel between muddy areas and the roads, so that can be any mud on the tires can stick in the aggregate area. So in the greater community, air monitoring continues at 23 locations around the community. EPA's Trace Atmospheric Gas Analyzer, TAGA, mobile laboratory will continue to sample. From an atmospheric standpoint, I think that danger is long past. This is more soil and groundwater at this point. Soil sampling crews in right-of-ways. So crews made up of 4 to 5 people wearing high visibility safety vests and scooping soil into jars. If your property is nearby the sampling area and the sampling crew sees sign of soot or ash, a member of the sampling team may ask to sample your property. So that's great. We want them to be taking these samples, and we want to see the extent and the concentrations. River agitation and aeration will continue. So this is, they're trying to get the volatiles out of the soil and out of the liquid into the gaseous phase. This is a typical remediation response. So response by the numbers to date, in this report, the tagline on here was 323, so it's 2 days old, but to date, 8,442 tons of contaminated soil has been removed. So on the 22nd, they did 50 tons. And just for reference, if these are in roll-offs, they're generally 15-ton roll-off boxes. So that's lots of roll-off boxes. or tri-axle dump trucks that are being removed. I don't know at this time as to where that's going. That's something that I do want to run to ground to see, is this material being profiled as hazardous waste, and where that's going. They should be able to show trucking manifests to illustrate cradle to grave um, responsibility of where this material was taken from, who handled it, and where it's going. So that will be an important thing for us to determine at a later date. 7.8 million estimated gallons of liquid wastewater shipped, and that was 181,000. I'm sorry, 181 347 million gallons from yesterday. That doesn't make any sense. So there's got to be a typo there. But this is pump and assumingly dispose. So the wastewater was shipped. We're going to have to drill into that too. Maybe they'll talk about it down here, but shipped to me sounds like they're disposing it maybe in a class 1 disposal well. I don't know. We'll dig into that. 621 indoor air screenings. I really don't expect anything there. Like I said, I think the majority of the legacy from this is going to be in the soil and groundwater. And the Welcome Center has received 377 visitors. So again, something else that we're going to do is we're going to take a trip out there and check out the visitor center and film that. Soil removal at the derailment site. Soil removal continues at the derailment site, and approximately 8,442 tons of contaminated soil has shipped to disposal facilities. Work at the site includes removing tracks in sections, removing soil, and placing it in staging area for disposal. Soil removal continues on the South Track Rail area. Planning for the North Track Rail removal is underway. During the soil removal process, Norfolk Southern, with EP oversight, will conduct soil sampling beneath the excavated rail tracks. So where they're moving this in staging it, if it's either in windrows, piles, or in roll-off boxes, it's important that they control the runoff from that, because, again, fate and transport of these contaminants is going to be a continuing concern. So if you're removing it from here and you're putting it over there, you have to control the runoff from that, or else you're just going to be contaminating somewhere else. And I'm sure they are, with filter socks and excavations into runoff control basins. But again, these are things that we're going to look for and verify. Liquid waste removal. Wastewater is collected to ensure water does not leave the derailment site or staging piles of contaminated soil. So this is exactly what we were just talking about, the runoff here. So they're collecting that. And wastewater generated after rainfalls on contaminated soils collected from cleaning and washing trucks before they leave site, and has been shipped off-site to appropriate disposal facilities. So, the devil is certainly in the details of what these appropriate disposal facilities are. I'm guessing it's going to be a class 1 injection well, but we're certainly going to run that to ground. And I'm up against some hard time here. But in the last minute, I did want to switch gears and show that Fair Shake is a nonprofit environmental legal service. I'm not sponsored by them, although I'm familiar with them because I have worked with them in the past, over 10 years ago. But they were, at least at the time that I was associated with them, part of the University of Pittsburgh's environmental law clinic. They may be completely standalone, but basically the concern is that it's hard for individuals to get legal representation because attorneys, they can't be conflicted. They either have to represent the plaintiff, which would be the homeowners in this case, or the defendants, which would be Norfolk Southern. And guess who generally has the deeper pockets? It's Norfolk Southern. So sometimes it can be very difficult for people impacted by these events to get legal representation. And as part of this is also the consulting, the environmental consulting, the testing, any testing that has to be done. I would really encourage you to have done through a certified laboratory under chain of custody, just to ensure your legal defensibility. a lot of these tests that you can buy over the counter, or it's they're worthless. So I would recommend anybody that's impacted by this to maybe check this out. I know that these are good folks. They'll try to help you out if they can. So that's all for now. Signing off.